It hits you every day, doesn't it? That feeling of just being swamped by information, news, reports, analyses.
Yeah.
It's just, well, a lot to keep up with.
It really is. The sheer volume is staggering. Trying to filter what's actually important is the real challenge.
And that's exactly why we're doing the deep dive. Think of us as your filter, your shortcut through that noise.
Yeah.
We go through stacks of sources, pull out the really essential stuff, the surprising bits, the aha moments you need.
Exactly. Giving you the core insights, efficiently tailored for what you need to know.
Precisely. And for this specific deep dive, we're zeroing in on current affairs for May 31st, 2025, Part 1. This curated specifically for you, the UPSC aspirant.
Yeah, and as we go through these topics today, you might find some feel familiar, things you might have touched on before.
That's right.
Think of that as, valuable reinforcement. Revisiting things helps solidify them.
Couldn't agree more. So before we jump in, if you find this useful, please do take a second to like this episode and subscribe. It really helps us keep these deep dives coming.
Definitely. And today, we've got quite a range. We're looking at a unique rice variety, quality standards bodies, a fascinating bit of U.S. law, global health,
Financial market terms, digital initiatives, wildlife, even defense cooperation. It's a real mix.
It is. Let's get started. How about we kick off with Kalanamak Rice?
Sounds good. So the news is that the Uttar Pradesh government and the Commerce Ministry, they're planning to boost its export, specifically to countries with large Buddhist populations.
That's the plan. And there's a specific reason for targeting those countries.
Oh, what's the connection?
Well, Kalanamak is this traditional paddy variety. It's known for its black husk and apparently a really strong fragrance. But the key thing is the history.
Okay.
Tradition says it was actually a gift from Lord Buddha himself to the people of Shravasti way back when he traveled through the region.
Wow, okay. A gift from Lord Buddha. That's quite a historical link. No wonder the focus on Buddhist populations for export.
Exactly. That cultural resonance is a big part of its potential appeal there. Geographically, it's a non-basmati aromatic rice grown mainly in eastern Uttar Pradesh.
Right.
It's even an ODOP, one district, one product for Siddharthnagar. You also find it in the Terai region, about 11 districts there, and into Nepal as well.
Interesting. Now, I saw something about a challenge it faces. Lodging. What's that?
Lodging. Yeah, that's an agricultural headache. But basically, the plant falls over. Yeah, the top part gets heavy with grain, and the stem isn't quite strong enough, especially in the traditional variety, so it bends or breaks, obviously impacts the harvest.
Right. Makes sense. A structural weakness.
Yeah.
But despite that, it sounds like it's more than just fragrant and historic. It's good for you, too.
Oh, absolutely. It's often called a nutritional powerhouse. It's rich in iron antioxidants. Plus, and this is quite significant, it has a low glycemic index. And it's naturally gluten-free.
Low GI and gluten-free.
Yeah.
That definitely makes it appealing, especially for diabetics, I imagine.
Exactly. It ticks a lot of health boxes. And it also has protection.
Protection, you mean like a patent?
Sort of. It's protected under the Geographical Indication Tag System, the GI tag, which recognizes its unique origin and qualities.
Okay, the GI tag. And there was a name associated with this development, Dr. R.C. Chaudhary.
Yes, he played a key role in developing improved varieties. So you see, Kalanamak rice isn't just food. It touches on geography, farming, trade strategy, history, health, even intellectual property. Lots of UPSC relevance there.
Definitely connects a lot of dots. Okay, let's switch gears from agriculture to quality standards. The Quality Council of India, QCI.
Right. The recent news was the Minister of State for Commerce and Industry inaugurating their new unified headquarters.
So what exactly is QCI? Is it a government body?
Well, it's a nonprofit autonomous organization registered under the Societies Registration Act way back in 1860. But its origin is quite interesting.
How so?
It wasn't just the government. It was set up jointly in 1997. Government of India and 3 big industry associations, ASSOCHAM, CII, and FICCI.
Ah, a public-private partnership from the start.
Exactly. And fun fact, Mr. Ratan Tata was its very first chairman.
Interesting. Which ministry oversees it now?
It falls under the Department for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade DPIIT within the Ministry of Commerce and Industry.
Okay. And its main job, what's its core function?
It's essentially India's national accreditation body. Its fundamental purpose is to set up and manage a system for independent third-party assessment.
Assessment of what?
Products, services, processes, across the board, really, making sure things meet certain standards.
So it's about ensuring quality through outside checks. What kind of standards are we talking about?
It promotes all sorts of standards, national and international. Think ISO standards like ISO 14001 for environment or ISO 22000 for food safety. It does this through accreditation services offered by its various boards like NABCB, National Accreditation Board for Certification Bodies, one of its key arms.
Got it. But its role isn't just technical accreditation, is it? It seems broader.
Absolutely. QCI has a big national role in just promoting quality awareness generally, improving quality of life, citizen well-being. They run the National Quality Campaign, for instance.
Right. How's it structured to manage all that?
It has a governing body, plus executive boards and committees. The main council has 38 members, and it's designed for balance. Equal representation from government, industry specifically, those three associations, ASSOCHAM, CIICCI, and other stakeholders.
And those boards you mentioned earlier, like NABL for labs, NABH for hospitals.
Yes, exactly. NABL, NABH, NABET for education, NABCB for certification, NBQP for quality promotion. They are functionally independent, allowing for specialized focus.
Okay, so understanding QCI is pretty important. Its unique origin, its crucial role in quality standards, its link to DPIIT, and how it impacts both industry and everyday life. That's key governance stuff.
Definitely. Now let's shift to international relations and a specific piece of U.S. law, the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, or IEPA.
Right. This was in the news because a U.S. federal court blocked some Trump-era tariffs, saying IEP wasn't the right authority for those kinds of broad import taxes.
Exactly. That ruling really put a spotlight on this act. It was passed back in October 1977.
And what power does it actually give the U.S. president?
It grants pretty broad powers, specifically to regulate financial transactions, but, and this is key, only after the president declares a national emergency.
Okay, so an emergency has to be declared first. What kind of emergency?
The act is specific. The threat has to be unusual and exceptional and must originate substantially outside the U.S. If those conditions are met, the president can do things like restrict transactions, freeze assets.
What if there's an actual attack?
In that case, IEPA gives the president the power to actually seize property belonging to a foreign entity involved in the attack.
Sounds powerful. Is the emergency declaration indefinite?
No, there's a check. Any emergency declared under IEPA has to be renewed every year under the National Emergencies Act. Otherwise, it expires.
Okay, annual renewal. What's its bigger role in U.S. policy?
It's seen as a major tool for extending executive power during peacetime crises. It's actually the legal foundation for a lot of the U.S. sanctions regime you hear about.
Interesting. And its history. You mentioned it was actually meant to limit presidential power initially. Seems counterintuitive.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, Congress passed IEPA partly to rein in the really broad powers given by an older law, the Trading with the Enemy Act of 1917. The source mentioned Nixon even used that older act briefly in '71 for a tariff.
Right. So if IEPA was mainly for financial actions and sanctions, why was this court ruling about tariffs such a big deal?
Well, as the court pointed out, no president before had really used IEPA to impose these kinds of sweeping tariffs on goods across the board. Usually, for trade actions based on national security, presidents use a different law, Section 232 of the 1962 Trade Act.
How is Section 232 different?
Section 232 requires a specific investigation by the Commerce Department, a report within 270 days, and it focuses on particular imports deemed a threat. IEPA is broader for financial stuff, but according to this court, not the right tool for these wide-ranging import taxes. So the ruling is a significant judicial check.
Fascinating. That's a real intersection of law, trade, executive power, and international relations. Understanding tools like IEP is vital.
Absolutely. Okay, let's move from international law to global public health. The MPOWER Framework.
Ah, yes. The news hook was about tobacco affordability in India undermining this framework, making it harder to reduce related cancers.
Right. So MPOWER is a set of 6 measures. They're cost-effective, high-impact, introduced by the WHO back in 2008. And they're directly linked to the WHO Framework Convention on Tobacco Control, the FCTC.
Okay, WHO measures. What's their main goal?
Simple. Help countries cut down the demand for tobacco.
And MPOWER is an acronym for these 6 measures.
Exactly. Let's break it down. M is for monitor tobacco use and prevention policies. P is protect people from tobacco smoke, think smoke-free places.
Okay.
O is offer help to quit. WM is warn about the dangers, graphic warnings campaigns.
Right.
A is enforce bans on advertising, promotion, and sponsorship. And finally, R is raise taxes on tobacco, makes it less affordable.
Monitor, protect, offer, warn, enforce, raise. MPOWER. Got it. Have they been effective?
The WHO certainly thinks so. They're seen as key tools globally that encourage smokers to think about quitting and provide ways to do it.
You mentioned the WHO FCTC, the Framework Convention. What exactly is that?
It's a really big deal in public health. The first treaty ever negotiated under WHO, adopted in 2003, came into force in 2005.
Okay.
It's evidence-based, strongly affirms the right to health, and it's been adopted incredibly quickly. 180 countries have ratified it.
Wow. What does the treaty cover?
It's comprehensive. It provides a framework for tobacco control covering both demand reduction, where MPOWER fits in, and supply reduction. The source lists key articles covering everything from protecting policy from industry interference to price and tax measures, smoke-free environments, regulating tobacco contents, packaging, advertising bans, cessation help, tackling illicit trade, stopping sales to minors, even supporting alternative livelihoods for growers. Article 7 specifically calls for implementation guidelines.
So FCTC is the overarching international law, and MPOWER is the practical toolkit for hitting those demand-side goals. Crucial stuff for public health policy.
Definitely. Okay, let's pivot now to financial markets, a specific term, open interest.
Right. This came up because SEBI, the regulator, announced changes to its equity, futures, and options framework, a new method called FUDAC to measure open interest more accurately.
Exactly. That puts open interest, or OI, in the spotlight. It's a fundamental concept if you're dealing with futures and options, F&O.
So what is it, simply put?
It's the total number of active F&O contracts, options, or futures that haven't yet been settled or closed out. Basically, the number of contracts still open at any given time for a particular asset.
How does that number change?
Well, every trade needs a buyer and a seller. When they create a new contract, open interest goes up by 1. When either the buyer or seller closes their position by making an opposite trade, that specific contract is closed and open interest goes down by 1.
Okay, so it reflects contracts being opened or closed. Why is that number important? What does it signal?
It's a key indicator of market liquidity, how easily you can trade, and also the level of market activity or conviction. Rising OI often suggests new money flowing in, potentially confirming a price trend. Falling OI might suggest money is leaving.
Are there specific patterns to watch for, like predicting market turns?
The sources mention one potentially useful signal. If the price of something has been rising steadily, a bull run, but the open interest stops rising and starts to level off or even fall, that can sometimes be an early warning that the upward momentum is fading.
Interesting. An early warning sign. You mentioned futures and options, F&O. Just a quick refresher on what those are.
Sure. There are major types of derivatives, financial contracts whose value comes from an underlying asset like a stock or index.
Right.
A futures contract obligates both sides to buy or sell that asset at a set price on a future date. An options contract gives the buyer the right, but not the obligation, to buy a call or sell a put at a set price by a certain date. The seller is obligated if the buyer chooses to exercise the option.
Used for hedging risk, but also speculation.
Exactly. They can manage risk, but also offer potential for big gains or losses. So understanding open interest gives you a sense of the activity and commitment in this important market segment. SEBI's move highlights its significance.
Definitely connects to market mechanics and regulation. Okay, let's move to digital initiatives, specifically one focused on social empowerment, Yashoda AI.
Right. The news was about an event, Yashoda AI, your AI Saki, held in Bareilly, aimed at boosting AI literacy for women.
So what is Yashoda AI? Who's behind it?
It's an initiative by the National Commission for Women, the NCW, working together with an organization called Future Shift Labs, or FSL.
NCW. And what's the main goal?
The core idea is to empower women, especially those in rural and semi-urban areas, by giving them essential skills in artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, and digital safety. 3 really crucial areas today.
Absolutely critical skills.
Yep.
What's the bigger picture, the overall vision?
The vision is ambitious: to enable these women to contribute meaningfully to building a technology-driven, inclusive Viksit Bharat, a developed India.
Does it just stop at basic training?
Apparently not. The sources say it goes beyond just skills training. They host discussions on pretty complex issues too, like AI-driven crimes, digital privacy concerns, practical safety strategies online.
That sounds comprehensive. How do they reach out, especially to the target communities?
Their approach involves actively engaging students, educators, even women in the police force. They frame it as a kind of community-driven digital education experiment. The goal isn't just participation, it's leadership enabling women to lead in this space.
You mentioned the National Commission for Women. NCW is leading this. Remind us what the NCW is.
Sure, the NCW is an important body. It's autonomous and statutory, set up by an act of parliament in 1990, formally established in 92. Its mandate is clear: protect and promote women's rights in India.
And its structure. Who runs it?
It has a chairperson, 5 members, and a member secretary. They're all nominated by the central government and serve for 3 years.
Does it have teeth? Any specific powers?
Yes, significant ones. When investigating matters related to women's rights violations, the NCW has the powers of a civil court. It can summon people, demand documents, take evidence on affidavits, issue commissions. Pretty substantial investigative powers.
Okay, so Yashoda AI is a concrete program from this statutory body, tackling a vital issue: digital literacy and safety for women, aiming for empowerment and leadership. Connects social policy, tech literacy, governance. Very relevant.
Very much so. Now, staying with digital transformation, but shifting to government services, 2 new platforms from the Department of Posts.
Ah, yes. Know Your DIGIPIN and Know Your PIN code. Launched recently. Let's start with DIGIPIN. What on earth is a DIGIPIN?
Okay, DIGIPIN stands for Digital Postal Index Number. It's a 10-character alphanumeric code. The really revolutionary part is how it's generated.
Yeah.
It's derived from the precise latitude and longitude of a location. So essentially, it gives every spot approximately its own unique digital address.
Wow, based on coordinates. That's a big leap from street names and house numbers. Who developed it?
It's an open-source, geocoded, grid-based system developed by the Department of Posts, but in collaboration with IIT Hyderabad and ISRO's National Remote Sensing Center, NRC. So serious tech expertise involved. The big vision here is offering address as a service, or BASE. The portal lets you find your DIGIPIN using your phone's location, or you can put in coordinates to get a DIGIPIN and vice versa.
What are the practical benefits? Why do we need this?
Well, it massively simplifies mapping locations accurately. Think about logistics, e-commerce deliveries, emergency response.
Especially in rural areas.
Exactly. It's huge for last-mile delivery accuracy, particularly in places without formal addresses or complex addressing systems. It ensures everyone has a verifiable digital location.
And potential beyond just mail.
Definitely. It leverages GIS capabilities. This infrastructure can underpin future digital service delivery across many sectors, making services more accurate, efficient, and location-aware. Think faster emergency response times, better planning.
And it's open source.
Yes, that's key. The tech specs and code are on GitHub. This encourages collaboration and adoption by other ministries, states, private companies, everyone. It works for all areas.
Okay, that's DIGIPIN. What about the second platform, Know Your PIN code? Isn't that just the old system?
It builds on the existing 6-digit PI code system, yes, the one from 1972, but it's been enhanced significantly.
How?
The Department of Posts did a massive nationwide geofencing exercise. They basically mapped the exact geographical boundaries for every single PIN code jurisdiction across India.
Geofencing. So drawing digital borders around each PIN code area?
Yeah, precisely. So the web application lets you use your location to find the correct PIN code for where you are. No more guessing based on nearby areas.
And you can give feedback.
Yes, there's a feedback mechanism. Users can report if they think the boundary is off, helping to continuously refine the data set.
Is this mapping data public?
Yes. The entire geofence dataset has been put on the Open Government Data Platform, so others can potentially use it too.
Okay, so DIGIPIN is a totally new digital address, and the PIN code app is a major tech upgrade for the existing system. Both seem like big steps for digital India and improving service delivery.
Absolutely. Significant steps in modernizing infrastructure. Now, let's shift from digital infrastructure to natural heritage, the Tral Wildlife Sanctuary.
Right. Saw a news mention. This is in Jammu and Kashmir, correct? Pulwama district.
That's right, Pulwama district.
And why is Tral particularly significant, ecologically speaking?
Its main claim to fame, ecologically, is its importance for the Hangal, the Kashmir stag.
The Hangal. How so?
It acts as a crucial corridor for their movement. And importantly, it's one of the very few places outside Dachigam National Park where a population of this critically endangered deer still survives.
Ah, so it's vital for connecting populations and providing alternative habitat, critical for conservation.
Exactly. It offers that refuge and connectivity outside the main protected area.
What's the landscape like? The vegetation?
It's typical Himalayan terrain. You find moist temperate forests lower down, moving up into subalpine and then alpine forests.
Any specific plants or animals mentioned?
Flora examples include trees like Himalayan horse chestnut, Aesculus indica, ash, Fraxinus hookeri, and shrubs like Indigofera and Lonicera. For fauna, besides the hangul, it supports over 15 mammal species, some rare, and more than 200 bird species. It's designated as a protected wildlife corridor.
Are there species found only there or in that region? Endemic species?
Yes, it's home to species endemic to Kashmir, like the Kashmir red deer itself, that's the hangul, also the Kashmir musk deer, and the Kashmir gray langur.
The source also mentioned eco-sensitive zones, ESZs. How do they fit in?
ESCs, or ecologically fragile areas, are buffer zones. The Environment Ministry notifies them around protected areas like sanctuaries and national parks.
A buffer zone? Why?
To regulate activities in the vicinity, minimizing negative impacts on the core protected area. It adds an extra layer of protection.
Okay. And just quickly, where do hangul typically live?
Their main habitat is dense riverine forests, usually in valleys and mountains in J&K and parts of northern Himachal Pradesh.
So Tral Sanctuary is a vital piece in the hangul conservation strategy.
Right.
Key for biodiversity, environment, geography. All relevant.
Definitely. Okay, final couple of topics, both related to defense and international cooperation. First, the Shangri-La Dialogue.
Right. India's Chief of Defense Staff, General Anil Chauhan, is attending the 22nd edition in Singapore. What exactly is this dialogue?
It's widely considered Asia's top defense and security summit, the premier event of its kind in the region.
Who attends? Just military chiefs?
No, it's broader. Defense ministers, military leaders, senior policymakers, strategic thinkers, academics, a real mix of key players from across the globe, but with a strong Asia-Pacific focus.
How influential is it?
Since it started in 2002, it's become probably the most significant platform for multilateral security discussions concerning the Asia-Pacific.
And always in Singapore, in June.
Yes, every June at the Shangri-La Hotel. Hence the name.
Who puts it on?
It's organized by the International Institute for Strategic Studies, ISO. They're a major think tank based in London. And Singapore's Ministry of Defense co-organizes.
What kind of things do they talk about?
The agenda really mirrors the security landscape of the Asia-Pacific. So traditional issues like territorial disputes, military buildups, alliances, but also increasingly non-traditional threats. Terrorism, cybersecurity, maritime security, even climate change impacts on security. It covers a wide spectrum.
How does the event itself work? Is it all public speeches?
It's a mix. There are plenary sessions with major speeches and Q&A, which are quite public. But there are also crucial closed-door meetings, smaller group sessions, where more detailed discussions, negotiations, and potentially problem-solving can happen off the record.
So a key annual event for understanding regional security dynamics, defense policy, and India's engagement. Important for IR and security studies.
Absolutely. And sticking with defense, let's quickly cover Exercise Nomadic Elephant.
Okay. The news mentioned the Indian Army contingent left for the 17th edition. What is this exercise?
Nomadic Elephant is the joint military exercise between India and Mongolia.
India, Mongolia. And this year it's in Mongolia.
Yes, scheduled for Ulaanbaatar, the capital of Mongolia.
Where was it last year?
Last year, the 16th edition was held in India at Umroi in Meghalaya back in July 2024.
Got it. Which Indian troops are going this time?
The contingent is about 45 personnel, mainly from a battalion of the Arunachal Scouts.
Arunachal Scouts. Interesting. What's the main goal of the exercise?
The primary aim is enhancing interoperability, getting the two forces used to working together. Specifically, they practice deploying a joint task force in semi-conventional operations.
What kind of setting?
The focus is on semi-urban and mountainous terrain, often under a simulated United Nations mandate scenario. It involves platoon-level field training, drills, tactical exercises relevant to those environments.
Anything new this year?
Yes. Reflecting modern warfare, they're incorporating aspects of cyber warfare into the exercise this time, adding that layer of complexity.
Makes sense. What does this exercise signify for the India-Mongolia relationship?
It really highlights their shared commitment to regional security and stability. It strengthens military ties, builds understanding between the troops, and paves the way for deeper defense cooperation overall. It's seen as a cornerstone of their bilateral relationship.
And it's been going on for a while.
Yes, the first Nomadic Elephant was way back in 2004, so it's a long-standing exercise.
Okay, so Nomadic Elephant is a practical example of India's defense diplomacy, building interoperability with a key partner, Mongolia, adapting to new domains like cyber, all contributing to regional stability.
Precisely, a key bilateral engagement.
Wow, okay. We really did cover a huge amount of ground in this deep dive. from Kalanamak Rice and the history there to the Quality Council Ensuring Standards.
Then that U.S. court case on IEPA, the Global MPOWER Framework for Tobacco Control.
Understanding open interest in finance, the massive potential of DIGIPIN, and the updated PIN code system, critical conservation for the Hangul and Tral.
And wrapping up with high-level security talks at Shangri-La and boots-on-the-ground cooperation and exercise Nomadic Elephant.
Yeah, getting these specifics, seeing the connections, policy, geography, tech, environment, security, it really helps build that comprehensive understanding you need, especially for something like the UPSC exam.
Yeah.
This deep dive was all about pulling those key insights together for you.
And maybe something to think about. Notice how things that seem worlds apart, like a U.S. tariff ruling, a new digital address in India, a military exercise in Mongolia, are all, in their own ways, about how nations and societies navigate their interests and security in this incredibly interconnected world.
That's a great point. How do these seemingly separate threads weave together globally? What does that mean for stability, for policy? Definitely something to mull over.
Keep connecting those dots as you study.
Absolutely. We really encourage you to maybe listen back to parts of this, let it sink in, check out original sources if you can.
Reinforcement is key.
It is. And finally, if this deep dive helped you connect those dots, please do take that quick moment to like this episode and subscribe. It genuinely helps us continue bringing you these tailored analyses from the sources that matter.